Okay, let's start. So, hi everyone, and let me introduce myself. My name is Ilja, and I work with some brilliant people at a company called Viber. You may also know us as a Purple Messenger. So today I'm excited to share with you one simple but very powerful pattern that I discovered for myself. But it's not something new and or game changer. So many of us already may use this pattern. So let's start. Most of the time when people mention Redux, they also mean React. So let's start with a few words about this UI library. So smart and dumb. Okay, it's a component. So you'd better know about different types of component. Many developers call them in different way, but the concept is the same. For example, presentational components are concerned with how things look, and container components are concerned with how things work. So with the time passed, you can discover more types of components like Mike Grabowski did with producers. So producers render nothing, and set state call from the parent container cause a side effect being created by the producer. For example, in lifecycle methods, a component did update. And producer call native manager telling him what exactly happened in our UI. And also producers listen to events which come from native part, for example, or Ajax calls, or sockets, and call callbacks that we have passed to them. For example, in this slide, when we change track prop, player producer send that new track to native manager, and we update info on our mobile lock screen that is not a part of our application. So we should implement some kind of controller to update that information. So the producers are container components that solve specific problem well. And Redux connects are also containers components, and they solve their problem. So let's talk about Redux. I hope everyone familiar with its core principles. You know, the beauty of Redux is that we can separate state from our component and get access to it at any part of our application. We can spend a lot of time talking about how amazing and powerful Redux is or is not, but be wise and don't move everything to Redux. If you like, you can use Redux-like style in your container, so at any point of time, you will be ready to move your local state out from the component to Redux with minimal effort. As you can see, we have got reducer here as well as a dispatch function. Anyway, when you start to introduce Redux to your amazing project, the following code is pretty common to implement. So in one file, we describe our container, so user container, as well as the Redux connect functions. So map state to props, map dispatch to props. We call connect with those functions, and after that we call return functions with container and get current user container. I prefer using decorators because it allows me to write elegant and maintainable code. But here's the problem. Every time when we write connect functions and container code in the same file, we have got that one-to-one mapping between those two pieces that we cannot break anymore, or it's very hard for us. And however, current user container is not the only one component that will need user data, for example. So in another container, we can also find same subset of Redux state passing down to React. For example, playlist.js component also wants to print user or artist name somewhere on the screen. And few words about get username and get playlist tracks. Those functions are called selectors. And selectors help us to travel throughout Redux store without knowing its structure. Yes, it's more code to write, but we cannot design our Redux store from the beginning of the project. And at some point, we will rewrite its structure to suit business needs. And if you're using selectors, you just need to refactor their code and do not make any changes in map state to props function. Also, selectors can be used as some kind of normalization of Redux data. Okay, let's back to Connect. And it's very common practice to move duplicate code to separate file and reuse it. So why not to reuse Redux Connect? So the connect/user.js file defines all data and functions that our application needs while working with user entity. And when we do such trick, we can wrap any container that needs user data from Redux store. I use this style to define them. So if Connect provides data for user, I just added use prefix and use it as a name for decorator. And the main benefit of such approach is even better separation of consents. Now connects provide the data to presentational components, to container components, while container components now responsible only for application behavior. The second benefit is better reusability. If you need the same set of data in different containers, just reuse existing connect. So the decorator use user. And the last but not least is testing. We can cover data layer of our application with separate unit tests. And it's also possible to connect single container to several data points from Redux store. Naively, we can write the following code and get access to playlist and user data via props. It's the easiest way to connect one container to several data points by reusing them. But there are two main issues. So every use has a subscription to Redux store, and if both decorators expose the same prop, for example, name property, the last connect will override it. So how we can deal with it? In that case, to avoid such behavior, we can use combine function. As you can see, combine will take an object with some kind of mapping and create higher order connect that will paste data from connected functions to corresponding nodes. So in wrapped component, you will be able to access data from user playlist in playlist prop and from use user in user prop, as well as dispatch functions. So now when we've got idea how combine should work, let's try to implement the most basic one. So current Redux Connect API allows us to build such function. First of all, we extract all keys from our config object to know props name where we'll put our stored data. After that, we should declare our map state to props function. So combined map state to props will be called by Redux, and it will receive state and own props as arguments in it. So we can simply iterate through keys and just call map state to prop function and assign return value to corresponding nodes. And same trick we will do for map dispatch to props. So exactly same trick. And finally, we should manage data from store and dispatch functions for every node. we trace through keys and create a merged object. So our command function is ready. It's just the backbone, so feel free to implement more powerful combined function for your business need. Because definitely you will need to pass some advanced options to Redux Connect. For example, state equals, state props equals, merged props equals functions, not to trigger random more than you need. Okay, React router. I think that some of you may know Michael Jackson. It's one of the creators of React router. And you know, this guy has a really strong influence on React community. He generates ideas and models that can change your mind and how you write your React application, or even how you perform your non-React code. And the latest trend that he promotes is render prop. He says a component with a render prop or children prop as a renderer can do anything higher order component can do, and even more. Again, it's not something new for us. Such libraries as React Motion has already used this approach. And the reason why he started talking about it is how we all use high order component. So for example, in this example, we don't know exactly from where name prop comes. Maybe from our my higher order component, or maybe we just pass this process to the component in parent render. And from that point, the real problems begins. We lose control over our application and start to spend hours finding the place from where the prop have come. And I understand why Michael is forcing us to use render props instead of higher order components. So we exactly know from where that prop comes. So you see that we exactly know from where name prop have come and from where nationality prop have come. But it's not my case. What I did about Redux is also true for Connect decorator. So be wise and don't wrap anything with them. For example, I tried to use decorated container as a top-level component for specific road. So no additional props will be passed, except props that from React router itself. And when we use our combine function, I can completely be sure from where playlist and artist props have come. So this .props, those .playlist will come from use playlist, and this .props.artist will come from use user. Okay, and I want to share with you one success story which was achieved with the help of Connect decorators. With the time passed, you can realize that Redux slows down your application. And it's a true story. Sometimes Redux is really slow, mainly because of us. We don't pay much attention what we do with it, believing that Redux will do everything for us. For my side project, it happened when we became to persist a lot of data from Redux for offline usage. You know, such functions as json.stringify and json.parse are not good friends with your app performance, especially when they meet React state tree. So we decided to store some data in more right places rather than JSON object. Realm database is an alternative to SQLite and mobile and core data for mobile platforms. We start to use it for the large set of data that should be available offline. Migration path was very easy for us. What we did? We have opened reader.js and looked what props this component expects. So fetch book function, save book function, text as a string, and title as a string. After that, we created higher order component that collect all needed data and implement all those functions using realm. Cover that component with tests, and after that, guess what we did? We just changed input path, and that's it. All tests for reader.js were green, and our application worked as before, except several bugs, but we fixed them. And that is what I talked about earlier today. Separating data layer from containers made our application more flexible, and we managed to change data provider without touching containers code. And that saved us a lot of time and, I guess, money. So thank you for your attention, and you can find a small Medium article about this topic. So just type the elegance of decorated Redux, and you will find 3 million read article. Thank you. So questions?
Hello, thank you for your talk. I have a question. How do you combine dispatch to props? It's a very complicated function. It can be function, can be function with one parameter, with 2 parameters. It can be object.
Yeah, for our project we have not this implementation. It's more complex. So this is an example of the basic one where we can map dispatch to props can be an object or a function. So I show you the basic one. So because of NDA and other stuff, I can't show the real code for our project. Also, I know that you can cover the case when your map state to props are not depends on props. So also, this case you should implement yourself, not to trigger more re-renders.
Because it can be a big problem for performance.
Second argument?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it. So this one is the basic. Okay. So the real, it's complicated, and I can't show it. The implementation of such function.
Okay, and second question, is it a big problem when you have a lot of decorators and you have a very deep tree? Component tree.
Redux tree, you mean?
Yeah. No.
React tree.
Yeah, React tree.
As I mentioned, I try not to wrap anything with Redux decorators. So, for example, if we're talking about React router, I try to wrap only top-level component with it, and use, for example, that combine function and collect all the needed data for this page.
Thank you.
And if I have got a nested router in it, I also wrap that nested router in decorated Redux. Okay. Any questions?